Back here on the Bobcast Intercession Edition as we are talking indoor track and field. My name is Fielder Dennis, joined by Coach Shane Brookshire. And, Coach, you had a meet at Susquehanna this past weekend. It's about 5 hours away. Tell me about your overall thoughts at Susquehanna.
Oh, we definitely had some great performances this past weekend. Just kind of picking up right where we left off with several of the athletes. Others were just trying to knock off some rust from not racing for 6 weeks. But yeah, it was overall it was a great meet. Loved the competition there. It was just what we needed to get back into things, and I think Susquehanna they had it ran pretty smooth throughout the whole day. We were wrapped up and out of there by 5 o'clock. So I said no significant delays. Good officiating, good meet overall.
Coach, the men collected 10 top 5 finishes, 10 top 5 finishes and 16 top 10 marks at SU at the SU Orange and Maroon Classic. That covered Friday night and Saturday. What were your thoughts on the men's squad specifically?
Well, definitely John Kearns having the performance of the day out of everybody. Um, the improvements that he has made has been unexpected, but um, in terms of how well he's done so quickly, and how significant those marks have been. He's been PR'd in the shot in West Virginia, and then PR in the weight throw, breaking his school record here at Susquehanna. And it's not just the fact that he PR'd; it's the fact that he did it by so much, and which is what's shocking. And he was definitely the top performance. And then on the sprinter side, Caleb Bonga going through in 23.5, which is one of his best times in the 200 all time. So I think on the men's side we had some great solid performances, and Braxton Clark coming through with a good double of a 4:41 in the mile and 16:14 in the 5K. I mean, that 5K is his third best 5K overall, and his second best on the track.
You mentioned Kearns. He opened his day with the school record and win in the weight throw at 18:02, 2.42 meters past the second place finisher. His previous school mark in the weight throw was 17:39. He set a year ago at Bucknell. It's been so impressive. And how has he flourished here this season without a throw specific coach?
I mean, he's been instrumental in helping all the throwers out. And the throwers have been helping each other. It's a collaborative effort, definitely on their part. And but John has been a big reason why all the throwers have been doing well. And so he comes in with a kind of a coaching mentality. He's more of an athlete coach than anything else. And he told me at the meet that is helping the other younger athletes with the throws has actually helped him get better, because he's able to focus on what he needs to do when he's telling them what they need to work on. And so, he's stepped it up as a leader on the team, from day one. And so, his the fact that he hasn't allowed not having a throw specific coach set him back and
Mm-hmm.
give him a reason to fail is one of the reasons why he's a huge success, and why he's going to go pretty far after track in college.
Sophomore Justin Dunklin took second place in the high jump at 1.83 meters. What did you see from the jumpers that stood out to you?
Yeah, Justin did really well. He had a couple other events too, prior or he had the hurdles before that, and then going straight into high jump right after the hurdles. And this is first time high jumping this year, so to start off at 6 feet, 1.83 meters, that's a good accomplishment, right off the bat. And then we had Jonathan Jenkins over in the triple jump, popped off a season best for him as well. And so it's overall, our program is well rounded right now, and we have somebody in every event that can do something great at conference this year.
You mentioned first year Caleb Bonga in the 400-meter dash with a 23.5. Senior Jacob Rickards finished top 5 with a fourth place finish in the 800-meter run with a 2:04.83 number, while Jenkins rounded out the top 5 finishers with fifth in the long jump at 6.02. Just talk about Rickards and Jenkins and their performances on Saturday.
Yeah. Jake had he definitely had a good double there as well. I believe that was a indoor mile PR for him, like running that 4:43. Like I mean, as with all the other distance runners, like he's looking strong and looking smooth, and so the goal like for these upcoming meets is just continue to get faster. But like he's put in the work over summer, throughout cross country, throughout the winter, and the mileage that he's put in is definitely shown in his races. Like he looks strong, and so like we're starting to really work on speed more and focus on recovery so that we can drop those times and hopefully get him back down to like the sub 2 minutes in the 800 where he was last year for outdoor. And like my goal is to try and get him as close to a 4:30 mile as possible, like for indoor, so that he can be one of the towards the tops in the conference for that event. And then who's
Jenkins, in terms of his jumping ability, top five. He finished fifth in the long jump.
Yeah, so Jenkins, I mean, coming in as a freshman to kind of establish himself right away as a one of our top jumpers, and having that versatility of going from triple jump and long jump, like is great. Like I felt that the 19 feet that he had jumped this past weekend is sets himself up well for the future. And now that we'll have Kevon Adams back at this next meet, I mean, we'll have a senior at Liberty guiding one of our freshmen and kind of passing the torch down to him.
We'll talk about Liberty here later in this segment of the Bobcast. On the women's side, first year Makayla West posted a top effort of the afternoon. She finished second in the weight throw with a personal best 13:44, surpassing her collegiate debut at 12:56 at West Virginia. She also added ninth in the shot put at 9.86. And you mentioned John Kearns' impact on throwers, on all the throwers. Is she really a benefactor right now of John Kearns' leadership?
Oh yeah, like and see her progress in the weight throw. And when you got John, who's number 15th in the country in Division II for weight throw, like helping you out, like I mean, you got to soak that up like a sponge, like when you're at practices. And so, yeah, like she is kind of come out of nowhere. Like she's a freshman that like we first time throwing weight this year, and same with Alexa Bradburn, and so they're still learning it, like still learning all the basic fundamentals for it. And honestly, like she's only a foot and a half away from breaking the school record in the weight throw. So
Wow.
it can happen at any one of these meets where she also breaks the school record, and to do it as a freshman would be absolutely amazing.
Junior Amy Trembley posted third place in the high jump at 1.52 meters, and first-year Shayna Booker was third in the 60-meter hurdles at a 9.78 number after posting a 9.91 in prelims. Booker also tacked on a fifth-place finish showing rather in the 200-meter at 27.97. Trembley and Booker both had pretty solid days. What did you see from them that was encouraging going forward?
Well, with Amy Trembley, like so once again, it's kind of knocking the rust off from not being able to compete in high jump like for 6 weeks, and so it's one of those events where you have to do it repetitively to keep up that rhythm of the high jump. And so, like finished a little bit lower than what she had done at West Virginia, but it's perfectly fine. Like she was also focused on pole vault that day as well, so. Like I still feel like she's going to be one of our top female athletes this year. Like she was close to a provisional at West Virginia, so it's likely like that she can either hit one for indoor or outdoor, and score some big points. I believe she's still ranked number 2 in the conference for the high jump right now. And on with Shania Booker, like she's another freshman that has really stepped it up and kind of came out of nowhere. Like she's running great in the 60-meter hurdles, like, and we're currently working on developing her 3-step. And like once she gets that down, like she'll be one of the fastest women in the conference for the 60 hurdles. And yeah, we put her in the 200 to kind of see what she can do and gauge what she can do for a 400 later on. And like she impressed in that as well, like with her first 200 of her college career. And so So I expect big things out of her too. Like she's great in practices, like always wanting to learn more how she can be better. And like at meets the same thing, like coming up right away to find out uh, what the race was like find out like what she needs to do to continue to improve. And I mean those are the kind of athletes that we thrive on to build this program.
Friday and Saturday, you're at the Liberty Kickoff at Liberty University. What are you looking forward to? And I don't know much about track, but I know that that's a very nice new complex at the Division I level.
Yeah, this is the meet that we've had circled on our schedule since day one. Like, this is one of our biggest meets that we'll be going to. It's like amazing facilities from what I've seen, and some of the top level competition. Like, I mean, we're going in there expecting to get whooped. But I mean, that's the thing about track and field and cross country too, is that when you go to these bigger meets, like faster competition, that's when you run your best times. Like that's when you get your best marks because you're put right alongside like some of the best in the country. So, yeah, like I hope it's a great experience like for these athletes that to go to this big Division I university, like see these amazing facilities and get to participate on this 200-meter bank track that very few, if any, have actually ran on in their college careers. And so they get this experience this year, and like they'll have VMI coming up later on. And I mean, our whole philosophy as a coaching staff was to provide them with high quality meets in order to produce high quality marks for conference and have them ready for championships. So yeah, I think we're going to see some amazing performances, possibly some school records in the field events again, and it's all in all, it's been a great start to the 2020 portion of our indoor season.
Coach Shane Brookshire, looking forward to talking to you more about the 2020 indoor season and moving to the outdoor. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Intercession Bobcast.
Thank you.
Back here on the Bobcast, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network, we're talking women's basketball here with Coach Kerry Saunders. My name is Fielder Dennis. Coach, thanks for joining us today. 0-2 this past week against Wheeling and West Liberty. What were your thoughts on the team's performance this previous week?
You know, every week we come in and we fight extremely, extremely hard. You know, losing a close one at Wheeling and then I think losing another close one again at West Lib this past week. And we continue to fight, continue to just fall a little bit short. And, you know, we're just hoping and hanging on to the fact that, you know, once we get home and off the road that, you know, some of these games are definitely going to fall our way because, you know, we're playing well. It's not that we're not playing well. We just have a few minutes where we lapse, and in this conference, that's tough to come back from. You know, I told the team it's not that I'm asking you to play a perfect game, but we've got to, you know, not have the lapses that we have for the duration that we have. But, you know, overall, I'm proud of our fight from this past week. You know, I think that those are two games that we can definitely turn around and get them the next time we see them. So, you know, we talk about that as well as, you know, we've almost seen everybody in this conference now. So the next time we see them, we're going to know what to expect. And I think that that's going to work in our benefit as well.
You mentioned you lost a close one at Wheeling, and it was 64-60. What was in your opinion, what was the difference? Was it just one of those mental lapses late in the ball game?
I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, yes and no. I think we played really well down the stretch. You know, Amanda went out with for a little bit, and then you know we went to a little drought of scoring, but we also prevented them to score a little bit. We did give up a late lead there late in the game, but a kid that also has made 3 3-pointers all season long drained a 3 at the very end of that game, which was kind of the dagger to put an end to it. You know, we locked them down defensively. They couldn't get any other option besides to pass it to her, and she stepped up in that moment. And you know, props to her. But you know, we've got to be able to close out leads. We haven't really played a lot with a lead this year, so that's also a growing time for us and for our younger kids who are out there to understand how to play with a lead. We play from behind majority of the time, so. Every game, every possession, we learn a little bit something more about our team, and so that's what we've got to keep grinding and keep moving forward.
Graduate senior Victoria Diggs and senior Amanda Emery combined for 36 points against Wheeling. How have their games translated in this stretch run to Division II? Do you think they're more comfortable now as the season's gone on?
Yes, I think they're figuring out what parts of their game can work and adjusting other parts. I think, the difference with Amanda is the conference is not full of strong post players. She's probably one of the strongest post players in the conference. And so, our thing is that no one really can guard her when her back's to the basket, get her ISO'd down on the block because every other team or a lot of other teams, they're playing all guards or all people that can literally put the ball on the floor, shoot, and so as long as we're producing with her on the offensive side of the floor, we can do something with her defensively to match her up strategically or yeah. So she's doing a great job, and then Diggs as well. West Lib kind of played her really well. Not letting her get her shots off, but she does other things on the floor that benefit the team and benefit her. I think that was her lowest scoring night. But at Wheeling, she did a phenomenal job getting her shot off. And I think part of it is just the timing of it, and she's trying to come up. We're trying to send her off of multiple screens or come off of ball screens. A lot of this conference goes under ball screens, so she makes them pay for that. So yeah, I mean, those two are just incredible players for us, both really talented but also extremely high IQ, which helps them as well.
Moving to the West Liberty matchup, the team fell by a score of 12 points, but the dreaded third quarter was won. That was been the Achilles heel this season in many games. What goes into controlling the start of the second half of a ball game?
Yeah, I always say win the first 3 minutes of the third quarter. Like, you've got to win the first 3 minutes because that sets the tempo for the rest of that half. And that's exactly what we did. And I thought we were really locked in at halftime. We were really excited. We knew that we were in this game 100%. And yeah, we came out and played well in the third quarter. We executed. We did things well. We got good production. I don't think there's a single person that I didn't play that didn't go in the game. And we got good production out of people late in the game. So, yeah, I mean, it's just another one of those games where 5 minutes to go, I think we were down by 2 or 3, and they hit 3 or 4 threes in the next few possessions, and we didn't capitalize. And, against a team like West Lib, that's what they want to do. They want to shoot threes, and we didn't close out well enough to the three-point line down the stretch, and that's where it hurt us. You take a few of those away and you teach them, okay, they get a 3, let's get the ball out of the net, let's go down, let's get a quick 2, and get right back at it. And so it's all learning, and it's all taking what's available, and that's the difference between D3 and D2 is D3 it's let's set up this set and let's do this and let's do that, and D2 there comes a time where you've just got to go, you got to make plays. And so it's all learning, but I'm extremely proud of the girls for keeping, they fight every night and they come into practice still willing to work.
This week you play West Virginia Wesleyan again on Wednesday. What can you take away from Game 1? That was the first conference game of the season. What can you take from that matchup because the teams are so different now?
Oh, they're incredibly different. I was just watching the film back from that game, and we're a completely different team than what we were then. Even the way that we play is different. It's a game that we can get. We lost by 2 down at Allegheny. If I remember correctly, a travel was called on us when we were trying to set up our play to kind of, score to either tie it or take the lead with very little time to go. I remember it being a chippy game, so I expect the same on the road. And we've just got to go out and fight. They work extremely hard, Westland does. They are a team that, stays in games because of how hard they work. So it's not only going to be a game, where we've got to bring our best offense, but we've got to bring our best defense, and we've got to outwork them to possessions. And I think that's going to determine who wins this game.
Then you play Fairmont. What do you hope to see in that from the team in this weekend's matchup against Fairmont State?
Yeah, Fairmont's a really great team. They play a little different style from what I understand, and I've watched a little film of them just because I'm watching other teams. We haven't 100% prepped for them yet, But they're a completely different team. They like to trap in the half court. They kind of run around. So we've just got to, it's a team that you have to stay composed. And if you stay composed, you can beat that very easily. So that's what we're looking for. It's a completely different style. We haven't seen that style yet. Yes, we've been pressed, but it's a little bit different than the previous teams in the conference that have pressed us. So yeah, it's just going to be another challenge for us, and that wraps up the last team, the first round, and then we get to hit the second round, and hopefully we'll get some of these close games here at home.
Looking forward to the second wave of these MEC opponents. Coach Carrie Saunders, thanks for joining us here on the Bobcast.
Thank you.
Back here on the Bobcast, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network, we're talking men's basketball here with Coach Sean Brown. Coach, 0-2 this week versus Wheeling and West Liberty. What were your thoughts on your team's performances this previous week?
Well, I thought we kind of reverted back to some of the bad habits that we had earlier in the first semester. First couple of games, not getting back on defense, and as far as transition defense goes, not boxing out and holding teams to one shot. It's more than anything against Wheeling. It was ugly against West Liberty, but again, a lot of the same things that that got us in trouble in the first half of the season. Again, not boxing out, not taking care of the ball, missed free throws. Not holding to one possession, not getting back in transition defense. Those are the big things, and not folks not contributing. I mean, offensively, we can't have one and 1.5 guys scoring. We need 4 or 5 guys to be right up around double figures, and the way we play ball.
When you look at the Wheeling matchup, tied at the half, but the Cardinals scored 44 in the second half. What was the difference between the two on the defensive end? Was it just a matter of not finishing out the defensive possessions and getting the rebounds?
It's both. Not finishing defensive possessions, holding to one shot, and also transition defense. And we don't get scored on a ton in transition but every little bit counts. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. Being a defensive team and getting stops and being there to defend the ball, and we just hadn't been doing a good job of that. Also turnovers, we've been real careless with the ball, and that's another uncharacteristic sign of our team and our style of play. We're usually taking care of the ball. We try to keep the turnovers to a minimum, somewhere around 10, in between 10 and 12 or less. And that makes for a winnable game. Bottom line, we beat ourselves. We've been beating ourselves. I'll say 3 out of the last 4 games we beat ourselves. Not taking care of our business on the boards, not taking care of the ball, and miss free throws. Those 3 things. Those 3 things will shoot you in the foot real fast.
Alexander poured in 35 points against Wheeling. He has 30-plus scoring games this season. And you mentioned the best way for Frostburg to get wins is many guys getting double-digit scoring. Do you think that would you prefer to see a little more sharing of the sugar, I guess, to use a term, in terms of scoring output and more options being displayed, or with Daniel Alexander the way he plays, he's being asked to do a lot on the offensive end?
Well, Daniel, he's been asked to play a lot of minutes. He's been asked to do a lot of our scoring. But with that said, Daniel had to go on against I can't remember which game it was. Well, he had to go on both games, but the Wheeling game he really had it going, and we felt like that was a good matchup for Daniel that game, where he could have. We thought he could have went off for probably 50 or 60 points because of the type of defense they play and the way they guard. They're not showing no special attention to Alexander. They're playing straight man to man. They're not reaching and not fouling. He missed a couple easy shots that he usually makes, and he still shot it over 65%. I think something crazy like that, 50% from 3. He missed some free throws that came back to bite us. But Daniel could have had 50 or 60 points that game. We felt like that game he could have erupted, he could have exploded, and he still had a a bulk of our points. I think he had 34, 35 points, and played a fairly good game. He didn't play a great game, but he played fairly well.
In the West Liberty matchup, you saw one of the premier Division II squads, and you kind of saw how they went about their business in terms of warm-ups and practicing and everything offensively, defensively. What can you take away from just seeing, how they go about their day-to-day process?
Well, it was good that our guys got to see it. I mean, I knew what to expect. Our coaching staff knew what to expect. Our guys didn't, and they see what a championship program look like. They see how a championship program prepares, how they play together, how they share the ball, how they, every possession count. They're going 100% every single possession, every time out, offensively and defensively. Their screens are crisp. Their cuts are sharp. Every shot they take looks like it's going to go in.
Yeah.
And and they have four guys crashing the glass. They're never giving up on a play. You can have a three on one break, and those guys are all the four that's behind the play are sprinting their butts off to get back into the play. They just give a championship effort, and they're a well-oiled machine. They've been playing this way for the better part of 8 to 10 years, and it was good that our guys got to see it, and I don't want to go all Kyrie Irving here on the podcast, but it's some glaring holes, and we got to fill those holes over the next couple of years if we want to compete at that level.
Senior Dale Alexander scored 24 points, and junior Joe Tadeo collected 22. How do these players push each other in terms of their production?
Well, they're similar but different. Okay, personalities are a lot the same. Both of them are, kind of silent leaders. They prepare. They prepare the way we like them to prepare. Those guys are, they're at practice well before practice. They're the first one on the court stretching and, getting their shots in. They're usually mentally focused. They're usually ready to play a game, 30 minutes before the game even start. So that's how they are the same. Different. Joseph attacks the game. He sees the game different than DA, and he attacks the game different. I wish both of those guys would have gotten going earlier in the game. They missed some bunnies, some easy stuff that would have helped grow our confidence early in the game. And that's the West Liberty game. We're talking about Wheeling. Joe got into two really, really early touch fouls. Neither we thought was fouls, but we had to sit him the rest of the first half. So he maybe sat 12 minutes in the first half.
Yeah.
So that hurt us because he's number one. He's our best defender, and he's our second best offensive player. He's our hardest worker. On the court, on ball, off ball, running down plays. So that hurt us not having him on the floor. But both of them pushes each other. They as teammates do. They argue with each other. They yell at each other, get on each other's case. But that's a good thing because they hold each other accountable.
Right.
And both guys. Sometimes it goes over the line sometimes. But that's what you want from your best two players. To hold each other accountable and be able to get in each other's face when need be.
Bit of a loaded question here, but this week you play West Virginia Wesleyan on Wednesday, and my first part of this question is what can you take away from the first time you played that squad, and then you play Fairmont later this weekend. What are you hoping to see in that matchup?
Well, I'll start with Wesleyan. We owe them, and it's not always good to go into the game with revenge on your mind, but our guys feel like we let one slip away. Although it was a 12 or 13 point game at the end, if you remember, it was pretty close with like 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. And then we had a really tough call called on us. It was a cylinder call, and that kind of it hurt us, and it killed our momentum. So we were down 2 or 3 at that point, maybe even 1 at that point, and the snowball started rolling back uphill, so to say. So our guys have revenge on their mind. I'd rather them just go out and play the game and play against the guys, but let them. I want them to have. I want them to feel, feel like they were slighted. I want them to feel like, this was a win that we could have had and should have had, and they're going to come back, come back Wednesday and try to, try to really step on their throats. As far as Fairmont, first time through, this will be officially the
Right.
first time through it'll end our first wave through the conference. And, we don't know what to expect. We know they're really good. We know they have a lot of new pieces. They have a really good point guard. He's killing it. I think he's a sophomore, junior. He's probably the best point guard in our league. They have a three-man who transferred from Notre Dame. Who's also a sophomore, 6'7", can put it on the floor, can shoot the three, can defend. Really, really, really good player. He'll be player of the year in this league one of these years. And then they have multiple bigs that they can throw at you, athletic, physical bigs that they can throw at you. So Fairmont's going to be. Obviously, they're going to be tough. They were picked number 2, if I'm not mistaken, in our league in the preseason, and I think right now they're like number 3. So they're going to be it's going to be tough to handle. But they are beatable. They do some things that we think we could we think we can attack. We think we can have some success. Just kind of scouting them a little early, and it's going to be it's going to be a game. It's going to come down to the same thing. Can we hold them off the offensive glass? I feel like if we can hold teams off the offensive glass and keep offensive rebounds under 8 a game, I think we'll be in every game and make our free throws, obviously.
Coach Sean Brown, thanks for the time. I always enjoy chatting with you and looking forward to this week.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Back here on the Bobcast, new location, but same content. We're talking with Coach Brian Christianson about swimming. And my name is Field, and it's presented by the Bobcat Sports Network. This is the Bobcast. Coach, thanks for joining us. Both men's and women's Frostburg State swimming teams began the new year 1-1 after victories over Southern Virginia and a loss to St. Mary's. What did you see in that swim meet that was encouraging?
Well, thanks for having me here. It's always a pleasure to be here from the comforts of my own office. Has the steady drums of basketball across the hall, and the splish splash of patrons in the pool. It's always nice to have a Bobcast with the great Fielder Dennis.
Well, that's very kind.
What was the question? No,
What were your thoughts?
Off track already. It was a very good meet. It was a meet where we had some. I'd call it some planned adversity, where we just got back from a Florida train trip on Tuesday.
Yeah.
We swum a lot, kind of our peak training for the year. Sat in a van for 16 hours, spread over 2 days. Actually, I took Wednesday day completely off to kind of recuperate, and then really we're just back at it. Thursday and Friday, had a lift on Friday. Really right before the meet, and so these kids are banged up, they're sore, in kind of a mental, weird mental zone. It's intersession, there's no classes, there's no real rhythm that they're in, and we're like, hey, let's drive 4 hours to St. Mary's and swim a meet.
Yeah.
And with all of that, I think we did really well. We had a couple season best times from people, and a couple even lifetime bests from a few people that came up to me and said, "Hey, Coach, I did a lifetime best," and I was like, "We feel terrible." But it was great. And my big message to them was, we're gonna feel like junk, but it doesn't matter. We got some fast. We got a race, and it's about learning to race when we are off, very very off, but physically, emotionally, mentally. Learning that none of that stuff matters. We gotta go fast.
Looking at the results, the men won 105-91 over SVU, but fell 112-84 to St. Mary's, while the women's were victorious 134-52 over Southern Virginia and defeated 117-68 to St. Mary's. And looking at those specific results, like you said, you came into the meet a little banged up. Were you surprised to see the results, or was it somewhat, like you said, anticipated adversity? Was that somewhat expected, these results?
Well, I knew it'd be close to St. Mary's. They've been. We lost our dual meet to them last year by 2 points. Edged them at the conference championship by 0.5, and then we actually saw them again at the Yellow Jacket Invite in Richmond this year, where I think we beat them by like 8 points. And so I knew it was gonna be close. I guess I wanted it to be closer than it was. A couple things didn't go away. We lost the medley relay by a matter of hundredths. I think if we had won, if we'd won that, if we won two other events, I think we could have been in the meet. A couple of close things. It's kind of like the meet where it coming down to a few seconds, a few hundredths is just the difference of the meet. But we had some dominating performances. Just Petty did really well. No one was really touching him. Our distance did really well. And then actually I thought our breaststrokers were hanging tough. I think we've kind of edged them lately in that, but I think they had their new freshman breaststroker that just kind of knocked us around. And a couple of things would have gone our way. It would have been better with them. Southern Virginia is their first year as a program, which I was very impressed with them.
Yeah.
They had some really good kids. You could tell. I think the format helped them a little bit. In a tri meet, we had like 2 swimmers in each event, which I think benefits a smaller team a little bit more.
Yeah. More quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had 3 or 4 pretty good kids that got some wins. It was such a crazy meet. At one point we were up 38-15, and then they won 2 events, and it was like 46-41, and then suddenly it was like 60-48, and it was just kind of like we would go up, but they were kind of we were always ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last relay they kind of ran out of steam. And we end up getting them, which was a good thing. And I don't really want to make excuses, but I don't know. I think we would have been better with. We're just like a bigger, deeper team. I think we would have been better with just like a one-on-one dual meet.
The women's effort was highlighted by a victory in the 100-yard breaststroke by sophomore Haley Benedictus, 1:16:57. What did she do that was encouraging on the women's side?
The women were I kind of knew the women going into it would like both dominate and be dominated. We really wasn't close at all. Southern Virginia, we just did a really good job, and in turn, we weren't really close to St. Mary's.
Right.
They were kind of the women were kind of in their own zone.
Mm-hmm.
Haley, she's come back from an injury. It's actually like her second meet this year. We've been very impressed with her. And she did really well against our meet against Georgia Southern as well, which we swum in Florida. She was actually the only person on Frostburg to beat a Georgia Southern swimmer, which is a big D1 program.
It's quite a feat, yeah.
Haley, really sophomore, she was a recruited Division III swimmer, so that's like a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah.
So we're very excited the way she's coming back. And it's kind of like she's busted up, but she just kept working, doing what she could. She's limited for basically over a year, and she's just continually put in the work of what she can do, and it's finally paying off for a little bit, which is a very awesome thing.
On the men's side, Anthony Giuseppetti took home first in the 200-yard freestyle and 100-yard freestyle, while junior Brady Peterson, sophomore Luke Russell, and senior Hunter McFalls, junior Jacob Tantala won the 400-yard freestyle in thrilling fashion. What did you see from them on the men's side that going forward, you said, I guess dusting the cobwebs off, getting the rust off. What do you think seeing their performance is really encouraging?
Well, it's good to just see them race, and they were pumped up for the last relay. I told them that we, if Southern Virginia were to win that, we would have tied the meet, which I do not care for ties,
right?
Unless I'm looking dapper on a night out, with a nice Windsor knot.
Of course.
I want to let the awkwardness of that joke settle for just a second. But no, they got fired up, and they did what they needed to do. They ended up coming out with the victory in a pretty dominating way, which is was pretty awesome. And then Anthony is getting to be reliable as someone who can lean more on some of the freestyle events, lean away from some of the backstrokes, but it's pretty exciting to watch.
On Friday, January 24th, you're at Bethany College with a tri-match against the Bison and Salem University. That match is at 6 o'clock. And then on Friday, or rather on Saturday, the 25th, you are here for Fairmont State Allison Broadus here at Bobcat Natatorium. You can listen to that live from Frostburg State, the Bobcat Sports Network. I guess talk about these two upcoming events, these two upcoming meets, and what are you looking from the team now? They're starting to get a little bit in a routine, and school's going to be starting after this weekend.
Yeah, well, the Bethany Salem meet is actually our last yards meet of the year until our conference champs, so it's kind of our last test to really see how we're doing in that format. It was a fun meet last year. The men ended up tying Salem. Like I said, I don't really necessarily like ties unless I'm docking my boat on a harbor. Anyway, I don't know if we are going to match up with them as well this year. I think we should match up pretty well against Bethany. We should be good with that. And then, it's weird. All three of these tri-meets, it's like the same. It's almost like I feel like we're going to split all of them, end up neutral. I predict us to kind of beat Bethany, maybe lose to Salem. I predict us to beat Allison Broadus, maybe lose to Fairmont. So it's kind of this weird zone where like we're excited but also kind of diminished. I don't know. That's coaches out there. I don't necessarily care for tri-meets. I think I like having one focus, and to make a win. Instead of like yay, but it's I don't know, not necessarily my thing. So coaches, they always try to schedule tri-meets on me. I'm like,
the more the merrier.
Nah, bro.
I know I'm looking forward to the meet here, as I know a lot of the parents of the alumni all come and bring some grub, and they have a great time. And I'm looking forward to being on the call for that meet on Saturday, January 25th, against Fairmont State and Allison Broadus. Coach Brian Christianson, thank you so much for joining us here on the Bobcast. I can honestly say, always in an interview with you, I always have a grin on my face. So thanks so much for the time, and thanks for being flexible here in your office.
Well, that's good. It's exciting to be here. Thank you for your patience and bad jokes. And, as always, go Bobcats.